The Amazon's Blackwater River lay deceptively calm under the midday sun. 2-year-old Keto, a mountain gorilla born in captivity and relocated to this South American sanctuary, splashed joyfully at the water's edge. His 300-pound mother McKenna, her silverback fur marked by a distinctive L-shaped scar from a poacher's machete, grazed contentedly nearby. Then, the surface tension broke. A ripple moved against the current. Then another. Keto, fascinated, reached toward the disturbance just as the water exploded. 22 feet of emerald green muscle erupted in a spray of algae and decaying leaves. A battle-scarred anaconda with eyes like black marbles and jaws unhinging wider than the child's head. The strike connected with terrifying precision, curved fangs sinking into Keto's shoulder as the first coil wrapped his torso with mechanical efficiency. McKenna's warning roar shook the jungle canopy, but the serpent had already begun its deadly calculus. Each constriction perfectly timed to the toddler's weakening exhalations. Somewhere downstream, another shadow moved beneath the tea-colored water. Moments before, Keto had been the picture of youthful exuberance, tumbling after morpho butterflies, his squeals of delight blending with the troop's contented grunts. Now his world narrowed to the unbearable pressure encircling his fragile ribcage. The anaconda's coils, each thicker than a man's thigh, pulsed rhythmically, tightening with every panicked breath the child managed to take. McKenna charged, her 300-pound frame cratering the riverbank mud. But the serpent used Keto's body as a living shield, twisting away with nightmarish fluidity. A sickening crack echoed across the water as Keto's left rib gave way, followed by a wet, bubbling whimper. Then, movement upstream. The water parted as a second anaconda, younger but more massive, surged toward the commotion, its forked tongue tasting the scent of fear and fresh blood. McKenna froze mid-attack, her intelligent eyes widening with horrifying realization. This was no chance encounter. The snakes were coordinating their assault. Keto's vision tunneled as the anaconda's grip compressed his shattered ribs, each breath coming in wet, shallow gasps. His tiny fingers scrabbled uselessly against scales harder than tank armor. McKenna, her eyes reflecting a mother's ultimate terror, did something no primatologist had ever documented. She begged. Dropping to her knuckles, the silverback female extended one trembling hand toward the snake, palm up in universal submission, while emitting soft, almost human whimpers. The anaconda's obsidian eyes showed no recognition, only the cold calculus of predation. Then engines roared. A rusted wildlife service jeep plowed through the undergrowth, skidding to a stop in a shower of mud and rotting leaves. Ranger Mark Shepard, a grizzled 53-year-old with a faded Semper Fi tattoo peeking from his sleeve, grabbed a steel pry bar, while his greenhorn partner David Espinoza fumbled with their emergency flare kit. Their sudden appearance fractured the deadly equilibrium. The younger anaconda hissed, revealing needle-like fangs glistening with fresh venom, while the larger snake deliberately rolled, submerging Keto's head beneath the blood-flecked water. Mark's pry bar scraped against the anaconda's spinal ridges with a sound like a shovel on concrete. Keto's face had turned a grotesque shade of plum, his legs jerking in involuntary death throes. David finally fired the flare. Whoosh! The burning magnesium tracer sizzling across the older snake's dorsum. Instead of recoiling, the reptile doubled down, its coils visibly tightening until another rib snapped with a report like a pistol shot. McKenna's scream tore through the jungle, a sound so profoundly human it froze both rangers mid-motion. Then, movement at their 10 o'clock. The second anaconda struck with locomotive force, fangs punching through David's calf before he could blink. The rookie collapsed, his scream harmonizing with Keto's weakening cries. As Mark struggled to maintain his grip on the pry bar, a terrible realization crystallized. They weren't just battling snakes. They were fighting the Amazon's ancient, implacable will to consume. Keto's whimpers had deteriorated to sporadic, liquid gurgles. Each crunch of cartilage reverberated like branches snapping in a frozen forest. McKenna, her silverback fur now matted with mud and saliva, suddenly shifted tactics. Instead of attacking, she embraced the anaconda in a macabre parody of affection, using her entire body weight to press the snake's skull into the riverbank muck. The constrictor thrashed, its grip faltering just enough, as Mark leveraged the pry bar deeper between its coils. Then snap! Not the snake this time. Keto's collarbone. David, his left leg ballooning grotesquely from envenomation, crawled toward the spent flare gun with palsied hands. The younger Anaconda, sensing vulnerability, began spiraling around his waist with terrifying purpose. Somewhere in the canopy, branches quaked violently. Something enormous was coming, and it wasn't here to help. McKenna's jaws clamped onto the Anaconda's skull with enough force to dent a car hood. The snake convulsed, its tail whipping David across the face hard enough to spray blood. Mark seized the moment. He wrenched Keto free with a nauseating pop of dislocated joints. The baby gorilla lay motionless, his chest frighteningly still. David, fading in and out of consciousness, somehow managed to chamber their last flare. Boom! The river erupted in hellish crimson light, sending both serpents recoiling into the tannin-stained water. 3 eternal seconds passed. Then a weak, wet cough. Keto's eyelids fluttered like wounded butterflies. McKenna gathered him up, her maternal sobs vibrating through his broken frame. Their fragile moment of relief shattered when the nearby vegetation exploded outward, revealing Jabari, the troop's 400-pound silverback patriarch. His yellowed canines bared at the humans in primal warning. Jabari's knuckles impacted the earth with enough force to send tremors through the ranger's boots. Nature's final warning. McKenna clutched Keto tighter, torn between maternal gratitude and genetic imperative. Mark raised empty hands in the universal gesture of surrender, but the silverback charged anyway, stopping mere inches away, his hot breath reeking of fermented fruit and blood. Then splash! The younger Anaconda resurfaced, now coiled around a half-submerged log in perfect striking position. David, barely clinging to consciousness, slurred, "The flare! Last one!" Mark understood with chilling clarity. This wasn't a rescue mission anymore. This was total jungle warfare, and they were hopelessly outgunned. The younger snake moved with terrifying purpose, not retreating, but strategically herding them toward deeper water. Mark fumbled for the final flare as Jabari roared, positioning himself protectively between McKenna and the humans. The Anaconda's head weaved hypnotically, then strike, aimed straight for the silverback's femoral artery. Jabari bellowed but held his ground, doing something no field researcher had ever witnessed. He grabbed the snake's tail with both hands and yanked, pulling it away from Keto with a strength that defied physics. The message was unmistakable: temporary alliance against a common foe. Mark struck the flare. The jungle inhaled sharply, waiting to see which predator would blink first. The flare's crimson glow painted hellish shadows across the riverbank as 2 apex predators faced off. Jabari, the 400-pound silverback, stood trembling with exertion, his left arm already swelling from the Anaconda's venom. The younger snake, its jaw unhinged in a silent scream, recoiled from the sizzling magnesium, but didn't retreat. Mark Shepard wiped blood from his eyes, realizing with dawning horror that the flare was dying. McKenna cradled Keto's broken body, her maternal whimpers cutting through the jungle's sudden silence. Then movement upstream. The water rippled unnaturally as the original 22-foot Anaconda resurfaced, its obsidian eyes locking onto David's paralyzed form. Nature wasn't choosing sides today. It was coming for them all. The veteran ranger's hand closed around his last weapon, a rusted machete older than his Marine Corps tattoo. As the dying flare sputtered, the river came alive with reflective pinpricks of light. Not just 2 anacondas, a half-dozen more, drawn by the scent of blood and struggle. David's breath came in wet rasps as the venom crept toward his heart. Jabari charged the nearest snake in a suicidal gambit, buying seconds. Mark swung the machete in a desperate arc thunk, embedding it deep in the younger anaconda's tail. The shriek that followed wasn't reptilian. It was almost human. McKenna suddenly stiffened, nostrils flaring at some new scent on the humid air. Then the gunshot rang out, not from the ranger's weapons, but from the tree line. A voice shouted in Portuguese, Don't move or the gorilla dies next. The real predators had arrived. Keto's tiny body had taken on a cyanotic hue, his chest barely fluttering. Mark abandoned the machete and dropped to his knees, pressing 2 fingers against the child's sternum. "Come on, little warrior," he muttered, recalling his field medic training from Fallujah. 30 compressions, a pause, 2 rescue breaths. The poacher's shouts grew closer. McKenna watched, her intelligent eyes tracking each compression. At the 4th cycle, Keto spasmed a wet, choking cough spraying bloody mucus across Mark's shirt. The baby gorilla's eyes flew open, pupils blown wide with terror. Just then, a bullet whizzed past Mark's ear. "We need to move now," David croaked, dragging himself toward the jeep. Jabari roared a challenge at the unseen shooters, his silverback fur standing erect. The anacondas, sensing new prey, began slipping toward the gunfire. Mark's arms burned with exhaustion as he continued chest compressions on Keto. Each push risked further damage to the broken ribs, but the alternative was unthinkable. McKenna suddenly placed one massive hand over Mark's, adding precise downward pressure. She understood. Together, they worked in eerie syncopation until Keto's tiny hand twitched. Then the miracle. A weak but steady pulse beneath Mark's fingers. The moment shattered as a bullet tore through Jabari's shoulder. The silverback bellowed, turning toward the tree line where 3 armed men advanced. The largest anaconda chose that moment to strike at the new threats, its massive body crushing one poacher against a kapok tree with sickening force. David, summoning his last strength, tossed Mark the jeep's keys. "Get them out!" he shouted, before passing out in a pool of his own venom-thinned blood. McKenna's gaze locked onto Mark's, an unspoken understanding passing between species. With surprising gentleness, she lifted Keto and placed him in the ranger's arms. Then she turned toward the gunfire, knuckles cracking as she prepared to charge. Jabari, despite his wounds, moved to flank her. The remaining poachers froze as 2 tons of enraged primate advanced on them. The anacondas, sensing opportunity, began encircling the humans. Mark hesitated only a second before sprinting for the jeep. Keto clutched to his chest. The last thing he saw was McKenna lifting a poacher bodily off the ground, her silverback muscles straining as the man screamed. Then the jungle swallowed the scene whole. The engine roared to life just as something heavy thudded against the jeep's roof. Whether snake, primate, or human, Mark didn't wait to find out. The jeep's headlights revealed a nightmare tableau. David's unconscious form being dragged toward the water by the younger anaconda. Mark stomped the accelerator, aiming the bumper straight for the serpent's head. At the last second, the snake reared up. The impact sent its upper body whiplashing into a tree. Mark leapt out, machete flashing in the moonlight, and severed the tail still wrapped around David's leg. The scream that followed wasn't human. Behind them, the jungle echoed with gunfire, primate roars, and the terrifying sound of something very large moving through the undergrowth. Keto whimpered in the passenger seat, his tiny hands clutching at Mark's sleeve. The veteran ranger made a decision that would haunt him. They couldn't go back for the gorillas. Not against those odds. As the jeep peeled away, the rearview mirror showed shadowy forms still locked in mortal combat at the river's edge. Years later, Mark would startle awake at 3:17 a.m., the exact time the largest anaconda had hissed in his face. The sound lived in his bones. That night, it had nearly cost them everything. As the jeep careened down the overgrown logging road, something heavy hit the roof against her, claws or scales tearing at the metal. Keto screamed as a snake's head suddenly appeared at the passenger window, its tongue flicking against the glass. Mark swerved violently, hearing the thud as the predator lost its grip. David groaned in the back seat, his leg now blackened to the knee. Then, miracle of miracles, a break in the trees revealed the ranger station's lights. Safety was 300 yards away. That's when the engine sputtered. The fuel gauge read empty. Someone had sabotaged their tank before they'd even left that morning. The final horror. Movement in the tall grass beside the road. They weren't alone. Keto's breathing grew ragged as they limped toward the station. Mark carried both the baby gorilla and David now, his marine training the only thing keeping him upright. 20 yards from the door, Keto went limp. Mark dropped to his knees, performing mouth-to-mouth right there in the mud. "Don't you die on me, soldier," he growled between breaths. Then a weak cough. Keto's eyes fluttered open just as the station door burst outward. Not help, the head poacher, his face a mask of blood, leveled a shotgun at them. The blast never came. Something massive crashed through the trees behind him. McKenna, her silverback fur matted with gore, lifted the man clean off his feet. The last thing Mark remembered was her gentle touch as she took Keto from his arms. Her eyes holding something no zoologist would ever believe was possible: gratitude. Then darkness. The river ran scarlet for days. When reinforcements arrived, they found 1 destroyed jeep, 3 anaconda carcasses, the largest measuring 24 feet 3 inches, and 0 human survivors. The gorillas had vanished. Only David's field camera told part of the story. Its last photo showed McKenna cradling Keto, both staring at something off-camera with expressions that defied scientific explanation. Mark spent 6 weeks in a Manaus hospital, his dreams haunted by intelligent black eyes, both reptilian and primate. The official report called it a wildlife encounter gone wrong. But when rainy season came, strange things began happening along that stretch of river. Poachers disappeared without trace, their boats found empty with unusual scratch marks. The indigenous guides whispered about a new spirit in the jungle, one with silver fur and a child to protect. Mark never returned to the Amazon. But sometimes, when the wind blows just right outside his Florida home, he swears he hears a familiar roar in the distance. The autopsy of the largest anaconda revealed stomach contents that made even veteran biologists blanch. Partially digested remains of at least 2 poachers, yes, but also something that shouldn't have been there: a silverback hair sample matching no known gorilla in the sanctuary's records. More disturbing, the snake's stomach lining showed claw marks from the inside. Whatever it had swallowed hadn't died quietly. When researchers tested the unusual scarring pattern, it matched no known Amazonian species, except perhaps for a large primate's fingernails. The discovery sparked debates that raged through academic circles for years. Meanwhile, back in the jungle, rangers began reporting strange phenomena. Tools going missing only to reappear in impossible locations, trail cameras catching fleeting glimpses of something that moved too upright to be animal, but too fast to be human. The most chilling report came from a night watchman who swore he saw a gorilla hand, far larger than any on record, place a freshly killed anaconda at the station's doorstep before vanishing into the trees. Jabari's final act defied all primatology textbooks. Security footage recovered from the poacher's abandoned camp showed the 400-pound male using a machete with shocking precision. Not by accident, but with clear intent. The timestamp revealed he'd fought for nearly 27 minutes after sustaining injuries that should have killed any creature. Most incredible, the last frames showed him standing upright like a man, clutching his wounds, before disappearing into the river where the anacondas had fled. No body was ever found. When researchers compared the blood samples, they discovered something impossible. Jabari's DNA showed markers of a subspecies thought extinct for 200 years. The implications shook the scientific community. Had this been some relic population all along? Or something evolution had crafted in response to the jungle's newest predators? The answers may lie in the increasing number of reports from river traders about devil monkeys that patrol the Blackwater tributaries after dark, creatures that walk upright and show uncanny strategic intelligence when dealing with human intruders. The final footage from David's recovered GoPro tells the story words cannot. As the poachers closed in, Jabari emerged from the river like some primordial deity, water streaming off his silverback fur, wounds leaking blood that mixed with the anacondas in the mud. The camera shakes violently as he charges, moving faster than anything that size should move. What happens next occurs in fractions of a second. The lead poacher fires, Jabari twists mid-stride, the bullet grazes his temple. Then impact. The screen goes black, but the audio keeps recording. Shattering bone, ripping fabric, and finally, a sound no primate should make. It starts as a roar, but changes, modulates, until it resembles something uncomfortably close to human speech. The last clear word, according to linguistic analysts, sounds suspiciously like keto, then silence. When the camera was found 3 weeks later in a treetop nest nearly a mile away, its memory card was perfectly intact, except for those final 37 seconds, which had been deliberately erased by someone or something. The research team's flashlight beams cut through the moldy darkness of the abandoned poacher camp. Empty hammocks swayed in the jungle breeze, still holding the shape of their occupants. Ranger Mark's boot kicked over a rusted coffee pot, revealing the true horror beneath: blood-stained field notebooks filled with entries about specimen acquisition. The last page, dated the day of the attack, contained a single chilling line: "Found the silverback's nest. Tomorrow we take the baby alive." But it was the Polaroid photos that made even hardened investigators gag: images of crates marked with zoo logos, and one blurred shot of a gorilla infant sedated in a too small cage. The final photo showed 3 smiling men posing with rifles, standing over something large and silver-furred in the mud. Mark pocketed it silently. Some evidence was too dangerous for official reports. The leather-bound journal fell open to a page titled "Breeding Program." David's shaking hands traced the handwritten tables estimating gorilla infant black market values: $250,000 for healthy males, double for rare color variants. But the real horror came in the shipping manifests: falsified sites permits, bribed officials, and a client list including private collectors from Dubai to Moscow. Most disturbing were the training notes detailing how to break maternal bonds using starvation and electric shocks. Mark's vision blurred when he reached the final entry: Day 47, silverback female refuses to surrender infant, proceeding with live dissection to demonstrate consequences to others. The date matched McKenna's scar. Outside the tent, the jungle had gone eerily silent, as if holding its breath. Then a distant crash of foliage. Something big was coming back to reclaim its story. The spreadsheet glowed ominously on the DEA agent's laptop. Column after column of transactions, each representing a stolen life. They called it the Great Ape Pipeline, the agent explained, zooming in on a payment from a Saudi prince's intermediary. Fake sanctuaries in Guyana, corrupt vets, even a private airstrip near Manaus. Mark's stomach turned at the shipping labels. Live exotic birds, stamped on crates holding sedated gorilla infants. Then came the video footage wealthy buyers applauding as baby primates performed circus tricks in Dubai penthouses. But the screen froze on one background figure: a poacher from the riverbank attack, very much alive, sipping champagne. "That's why they kept coming back," the agent murmured. "Your silverback's troop had rare recessive genes, worth millions to the right collectors." Outside the interrogation room, thunder rumbled. When the lights flickered, Mark could swear he saw shadowy figures moving through the parking lot, too large to be human. The shallow grave contained 7 skeletons. Forensic anthropologists identified 6 as missing park rangers from the past decade. But the 7th, female, early 20s, the coroner said, pointing to the broken camera still clutched in skeletal fingers. Press credentials from Rio. Maria Salgado, an investigative journalist who'd vanished while tracking exotic animal smuggling. Her last memory card revealed hours of covert footage, including an interview with a dying poacher who whispered, "The silverback, it's not natural. It watches. It learns." The final clip showed Maria running through moonlit jungle, screaming about something that moved too fast before the camera toppled into leaves. The audio kept recording. Heavy breathing, then an unmistakable sound, the snick of a machete being drawn from flesh, not by human hands. When researchers played the audio for local tribesmen, they recoiled in fear. Their translation chilled the room. She said the mother gorilla was crying human tears when she found her baby's collar. The tiny denim overalls lay half-buried near the riverbank, still buttoned at the crotch. No blood, no tears, just abandoned. The search team radioed frantically for missing person reports, but came up empty. Then the forensic tech lifted a strand of silver blonde hair from the collar. DNA tests would later match it to a German tourist family who'd vanished from an ecolodge upstream 3 days before Quito's attack. Their rental canoe was found perfectly intact, picnic lunch still wrapped, cameras with full memory cards. The last photo showed their 6-year-old daughter smiling, hand extended toward the water's edge where something dark and massive reflected in her sunglasses. When enhanced, the reflection revealed not an anaconda, but a gorilla hand reaching back. The lodge manager's testimony sealed the horror. That family asked about volunteering at the gorilla orphanage. I told them no such place existed here. The makeshift cross leaned drunkenly over Maria Salgado's jungle grave. As the research team paid respects, a sapphire-winged butterfly, identical to the one Quito had chased, fluttered down to rest on the weathered wood. Mark reached out, but the insect took flight, leading their gaze to a previously unnoticed game trail. What they found there defied explanation. 7 neatly arranged anaconda skulls, each pierced through the brow ridge in the same precise spot. Between them lay a crude doll woven from jungle vines and silverback fur. The anthropologist's hands shook as she turned it over, revealing a scrap of denim threaded through its chest, matching the missing child's overalls. "This isn't animal behavior," she whispered. "This is ritual." As if summoned, a familiar roar echoed from the treetops. The team fled, but not before their trail camera captured a silhouette watching from the canopy, too large to be any recorded primate, its eyes reflecting the flash with unnatural intelligence. The classified documents arrived anonymously in a waterproof tube at Mark's hospital bedside. Page after page of redacted field reports from the 1970s, all referencing Project Silverback and accelerated hominid reintroduction. One unredacted line stood out. Subject Gamma demonstrates tool use beyond baseline parameters, has begun mimicking Portuguese phrases from researchers. The attached photos showed a younger Jabari in a concrete enclosure, his eyes holding terrifying awareness. The final document was a termination order citing unacceptable cross-species cognitive transfer. Mark's blood ran cold at the signature, the same official now heading Brazil's Wildlife Protection Agency. That night, his room door creaked open without explanation. On his pillow lay a fresh gorilla handprint in river mud, and a single Polaroid showing Quito alive, standing upright beside McKenna near a waterfall. The date stamp was yesterday. When he reported it, security footage showed no one had entered. But the nurse mentioned something odd, your heart monitor. For about 10 seconds, it matched the rhythm of a gorilla's. The research team's celebratory dinner by the river turned to horror when the water erupted beside them. Not the expected 20-footer, but a true behemoth 30 feet if it was an inch, its scales marred by old bullet scars. As it lunged, something unbelievable happened. A silver-furred blur intercepted mid-strike, wrestling the serpent ashore. In the moonlight, they saw it was McKenna, but changed. Her movements held calculated precision, her eyes reflecting unnatural intelligence. The battle raged for minutes until she delivered a final, deliberate bite to the snake's spine. Then she did something that made the researchers question their sanity. She methodically arranged the carcass in the same ritual pattern as the skulls. Before vanishing into the jungle, she locked eyes with the lead scientist and made a gesture no wild gorilla should know, pressing one finger to her lips in the universal sign for silence. The message was clear. Some truths weren't meant to be studied. Maria Salgado's last email to her editor arrived 3 hours after her official time of death. The attachment contained 47 seconds of shaky footage showing Quito, alive but changed. The infant moved with eerie purpose, stacking stones in perfect symmetry while McKenna watched approvingly. Then the camera panned to reveal Jabari's massive form crouched in a clearing, using a sharpened rock to etch symbols into tree bark. The symbols matched cave paintings from a lost Amazonian tribe that worshipped forest demons. Maria's whispered voiceover said, "They're teaching him, not survival, history." The email's subject line read, "Proof of the hybrid project," but the body contained just one sentence. "If you're reading this, don't look for my body, look for what's wearing my skin." The video's final frames showed Maria turning the camera on herself as something large approached from behind. Her last words were drowned out by a sound no microphone should have picked up. A gorilla vocalizing perfect Portuguese. "Neo perturbo os filhos." "Do not disturb the children." The shaman's gnarled finger traced the cave painting with reverence. A silver-backed figure standing upright beside smaller human shapes, all facing a coiled serpent. "Not gorilla, not man. May das duas sangs," he whispered. "Mother of two bloods." The tribal elder's story unfolded like a nightmare generations ago. Their warriors had encountered forest walkers with ape strength and human cunning. "We made pact. They keep the snake people away, we keep their secret." He pointed to a newer section of the mural, added within the past decade, unmistakable figures in modern clothing leading children toward a waiting gorilla. The final panel showed the same humans impaled on broken trees. Mark's blood ran cold when the shaman produced a recent photograph. A blurry trail cam image of Keto, now nearly full-grown, standing protectively over a group of indigenous children during a flash flood. His fur bore the same ritual scars as the cave painting. The elder's final words hung in the humid air. "Your science made them. Our world will inherit them." Outside the hut, something heavy moved through the canopy, dropping a single gift at the doorway: Maria Salgado's press badge, polished to a shine. Trail cameras captured eerie changes in McKenna's troop. They moved differently now, walking upright more often, crafting crude tools from river stones. Keto, nearly grown, displayed bizarre behaviors, stacking rocks in geometric patterns, mimicking bird calls with unsettling accuracy. Rangers reported finding gutted anacondas arranged in ritual circles. The most chilling footage showed the gorillas gathering at dusk to watch the sunset in perfect silence. When researchers approached, the troop vanished without trace. Only one thing remained: a carefully stacked pyramid of poacher weapons, each blade broken in half. The message was clear. They remembered, and they were learning. Keto's damaged rib never healed properly. The deformity gave his breathing a distinctive wheeze, an audible signature across the rainforest. Poachers' campfire tales spoke of hearing that sound before attacks. Scientists noted something stranger. Other gorillas adapted to his limitation. They developed hand signals to communicate during his labored breathing spells. McKenna was often seen adjusting his posture like a physical therapist. Then came the day researchers witnessed Keto using his deformity strategically. The wheeze became a distress call to lure anacondas into ambushes. The troop had turned weakness into weapon. The jungle was rewriting its rules. Mark's PTSD therapy faltered when other survivors reported identical dreams. Silver shadows watching from bedroom corners, the smell of wet gorilla fur upon waking. David's prosthetic leg would inexplicably ache when storms approached, just like his missing limb had before. The incident. The worst reports came from night guards, security footage showing them bolting upright at 3:17 a.m., the exact time of Keto's attack, screaming about black eyes in the trees. Psychiatrists dismissed it as mass hysteria. Then the hospital's wildlife camera captured it. A massive silverback pausing outside Mark's window during his worst night. The shaky cell footage showed Keto standing bipedal at the riverbank, using a stick to etch symbols in the mud, identical to indigenous cave art. When a juvenile anaconda approached, he didn't flee. He vocalized 3 perfect Portuguese words: "Neo hoji ermeo." "Not today, brother." The snake retreated. Within hours, government agencies scrubbed all copies. The cameraman vanished. Officials claimed deepfake hoax, but linguists noted terrifying accuracy in Keto's accent. It matched 1970s researchers from Project Silverback. The only surviving screenshot shows Keto's eyes reflecting the camera flash with pupil dilation no gorilla should possess. McKenna developed a mirror image rib deformity after carrying Keto for months post-injury. Scientists were baffled. Gorillas don't manifest sympathetic wounds. Then trail cameras caught the chilling ritual. Each full moon, Keto would press his damaged side against hers, while the troop vocalized in harmonic frequencies that made recording equipment malfunction. After 6 cycles, their breathing synchronized perfectly. Researchers who witnessed it reported sudden nosebleeds and temporary aphasia. The final footage showed McKenna deliberately snapping a sapling to match Keto's old injury, then handing it to him like a teaching tool. Whatever they were becoming, it was happening by design. DNA tests revealed triple helix anomalies in Keto's cells, a biological impossibility. His telomeres regenerated like a teenager's despite accelerated growth. Most disturbing? His neurons showed dendritic branching patterns matching human linguists, not primates. The lab director quit after finding nighttime additions to his research notes in handwriting resembling Maria Salgado's. The final entry read, "You're asking the wrong questions. It's not what they are now. It's what they're becoming." That morning, every camera in the facility captured the same blurred image moving through walls, a silverback silhouette holding something. Jabari's final confirmed sighting showed him standing knee-deep in the river, arms raised in a pose identical to ancient petroglyphs of river gods. In his left hand, a poacher's severed head. In his right, Maria Salgado's recovered camera. Most chilling was the timestamp, taken 3 days after his confirmed death. The photo's metadata revealed impossible details: ambient temperature matching human body heat, atmospheric pressure readings consistent with intentional breath-holding. When enhanced, Jabari's pupils reflected not the jungle, but what appeared to be a research facility hallway. The same facility studying his DNA went into lockdown that night, reporting biohazard breaches in their primate wing. The former ranger's psychiatric records tell a terrifying story. Sleepwalking episodes where he'd reconstruct the attack scene with household items, always waking at 3:17 a.m. His sketches showed McKenna with disturbingly human hands. During one fugue state, David transcribed 17 pages of grammatical Portuguese, a language he didn't speak. The text described the change coming for all who witnessed the river battle. When doctors played back his session recordings, they discovered layered vocal tracks, David's voice and something deeper growling in synchrony. His final note before disappearing read, "She's coming to collect what we owe. The debt is in the bones." On his deathbed, the retired ranger whispered secrets to his priest. As a young Marine in Belize, he'd guarded a black site primate research facility. "We called them the talking apes," he rasped. "They'd beg for death in our voices." His final mission: transport a pregnant silverback to South America. "She looked at me, spoke my mother's name." The priest's recording cut out during Mark's last words. When played backward, the static resolves into a gorilla's vocalizations forming perfect English. The children remember their fathers. The funeral was delayed by a bizarre incident: silverback hairs woven into the shroud stitching. The discovery made even hardened anthropologists flee. A burial site containing 7 poacher skeletons arranged in a perfect gorilla handprint formation. Each skull showed bite patterns matching McKenna's dental records. The center skeleton held a rusted camera containing one last image: Keto, now fully grown, standing beside what appears to be a hybrid child. Enhanced analysis revealed the child's eyes have the same triple helix anomaly. The date stamp was set for tomorrow. That night, every research station within 200 miles received the same radio transmission: breathing sounds synced to Keto's distinctive wheeze. Then 3 words in Maria Salgado's voice: "They're graduating soon." Static followed for exactly 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Fishermen near the Blackwater tributaries tell impossible stories. Anacondas reaching 40 feet, their scales marked with strange parallel scars resembling finger grooves. Wildlife cameras capture disturbing footage. These massive serpents avoiding certain river bends where the water runs silver with mineral deposits. Last month, a research team found something chilling: a shed snakeskin with bite marks too large for any known Amazonian predator. The indigenous guides refused to touch it, whispering about "May das duas sang's teeth." When analyzed, the skin contained traces of a unique enzyme, previously only found in gorilla saliva. Returning expedition teams found the old logging road completely vanished beneath new jungle growth, an ecological impossibility for the time frame. Satellite imagery shows the vegetation forming a distinct silverback-shaped pattern across the former attack site. Ground-penetrating radar revealed 7 human-sized objects buried precisely where the poachers had stood during the final confrontation. The local government abruptly sealed the area after workers reported hearing rhythmic chest beating from underground, at exactly 60 beats per minute, arresting gorilla's heart rate. The only man-made object recovered was David's rusted flare gun, its barrel bent into a perfect question mark. Survivors from a nearby mining camp described the horror. Silver shadows moving through moonlight, methodically dismantling equipment with tool-using precision. Security footage showed silhouettes standing upright, arranging destroyed machinery into symbolic shapes. When enhanced, the images revealed Quito now towering over 8 feet tall, directing operations with human-like gestures. The mine's owner disappeared that night. Workers found his office untouched except for one addition, Maria Salgado's press badge placed neatly on his chair, alongside a fresh gorilla handprint in river clay. The message was clear. Some debts couldn't be paid with money. Declassified documents revealed Project Silverback's darkest secret, not just gorillas, but hybrid embryos gestating in human surrogates. The last surviving researcher, found hiding in a Bolivian monastery, described infants displaying accelerated metacognition before being terminated. His final journal entry contained a chilling addendum in different handwriting. The children weren't the failure. We were. Recent drone footage shows mysterious figures being escorted through the jungle at night by silverback sentinels. Thermal imaging suggests human body shapes, but with primate heat signatures. The most disturbing detail? All appear to walk with Quito's distinctive wheezing rhythm. The rediscovered field notes of Project Silverback's lead geneticist detailed forced hybridization attempts in the 1970s. His final entry, dated the day before his suicide, described a breakthrough. Subject Gamma's offspring demonstrate epigenetic memory. They learn from ancestral trauma. The diary's last page contained a child's drawing of a gorilla holding hands with stick figures, labeled family. Forensic analysis detected silverback saliva on the corner. When researchers compared the DNA to Quito samples, they made a stomach-churning discovery: 2.7% human genetic markers matching the long-dead geneticist himself. The Ashaninka people tell visitors about the silver ghosts, tall figures who leave perfect gorilla footprints but move like men. Their shamans speak of a sacred cave where the walls pulse with bioluminescent fungi arranged into complex mathematical patterns. Last month, an anthropologist emerged from that cave, changed, his notes filled with anatomical sketches of a perfect species. His pupils permanently dilated to gorilla-like proportions. He repeats one phrase in perfect Ashaninka: "The mothers are coming home." Satellite imagery shows the cave entrance now resembles a giant gorilla's mouth, with stalactites forming unmistakable canines. The audio file, recovered from a destroyed research station, contains 3 minutes and 17 seconds of what initially sounds like normal jungle noises. When played at quarter speed, the layers separate. Beneath the insect chorus is a gorilla troupe vocalizing in harmonic patterns that match human neural frequencies. At the 2:06 mark comes the chilling moment: Quito's distinctive wheeze forming recognizable Portuguese words. A terceira evolução química aqui. The third evolution begins here. Primatologists who analyzed it experienced sudden onset migraines and temporary aphasia. The file's metadata contained an impossible timestamp, dated 5 years in the future. The final radio message was barely coherent. "They're not animals. They're architects," followed by sounds of equipment being dismantled with precise tool use. The security feed showed researchers kneeling as silverback shadows moved methodically through the lab. Then came Quito, now walking fully upright, carefully removing every data drive before smashing the cameras. The last functioning device captured thermal images of the team being led single file into the jungle, their heat signatures gradually changing to match the gorillas. The final transmission was just breathing, human and gorilla rhythms synchronizing perfectly before cutting off at exactly 3:17 a.m. The latest satellite images show the rainforest changing in impossible ways. River tributaries now form perfect Fibonacci spirals, while clearings display geometric crop circle-like patterns visible only from altitude. Indigenous children have begun sleep-drawing complex DNA helix structures. At Harvard's primate lab, a startling discovery. All captive gorillas born this year share Quito's triple helix anomaly, despite no genetic links. They're also developing unusual vocal tics. Many now wheeze exactly at 3:17 each afternoon. The most disturbing development? Wildlife cameras across 3 continents captured silverback shadows where no gorillas exist, all moving toward coordinates matching the Blackwater River site. The last intact research note reads, "It's not invasion, it's graduation." Global reports detail strange occurrences. Zoo gorillas escaping without broken locks. Primates worldwide demonstrating sudden tool-making skills. In Manaus, residents report seeing upright figures watching from rooftops at 3:17 a.m. The final piece? A child's composition notebook found near the river, filled with perfect Portuguese essays about the new family. The last page shows a crayon drawing. Silverback figures holding hands with human children around a globe. The signature reads Quito and Friends, in handwriting matching Maria Salgado's. As you read this, the jungle grows quieter, except for that familiar wheezing rhythm getting steadily closer. Turn out your lights tonight and listen carefully. Evolution has a new favorite child.